Okay, so let's start formally. Uh, Welcome and very good morning, distinguished faculty member, for joining this event. And this is Dr. Sajjad Hussain, Director CETL, and it's an honor to welcome you to this insightful webinar on a subject that resonates profoundly with the future of education. And before we dive into the heart of our discussion, I want to take a moment to acknowledge the historical significance of today. We someday remember the martyred intellectuals who sacrificed their lives during the Bangladesh Liberation War in 1971. And today we have a session titled Navigating Uncertainty, the Future Trajectory of Education, Educational Assessment in the Age of Artificial Intelligence. And it's not just a webinar, it's a journey into the complexity and opportunity that arise as we integrate AI into the educational landscape. The world of education is undergoing a significant transformation with the advent of technology, and a worldwide trend toward e-learning will impact us sooner rather than later. Fortunately, ULAB has taken the initiative to integrate technologies and pilot blended learning in spring 2024. And in the coming hour, we'll explore the challenges and prospects of educational assessment in the age of generative AI. Our distinguished speaker, Mr. Mehdi Rajiv, brings a wealth of knowledge from his extensive research in the field. After initiating the discussion, we expect an informal discussion among faculty members to explore their thoughts and try to find the solution. And today's event will unfold with the welcome speech by Professor Imran Rahman, Vice Chancellor of ULAB. Now I'm requesting Professor Imran Rahman to deliver his welcome speech. Sir.
Thank you, Dr. Sajjad. So good morning from Dhaka to everybody. And thank you for joining this e-seminar. We are also joined by Vice Chancellor, Professor Jude Henilo. Let me just start with some comments about Mehdi, who's badly missed at ULAB. You know, he joined us. He will tell us, hopefully, a short intro about his journey with ULAB. But you know, he joined us, and then he became a very good researcher. He comes from a background of statistics, so which is very involved with data analytics and AI. You know, that's the whole thing. The paradigms of AI use a lot of high-level statistics. So the topic is very important. You know, how to, you know, what impact AI will have in educational assessment. We are already facing a kind of that in a sense with ChatGPT and all. It's getting challenging for us to tell what is you know, what is you know, what is genuine, what is plagiarized or copied. So, and you know, this is just one aspect. There'll be several other aspects which hopefully, you know, maybe Rajiv will touch upon. I think this kind of e-seminar with faculty on PhD leave this is the first one of its kind, I think. And I would request Sajjad to do that regularly, because it keeps us abreast of the research journey of our faculty on study leave. And it also connects the faculty on leave with the rest of the ULAB community. So this is an excellent initiative. Thank you, Sajjad, for starting this. So that's basically it. I also want to just add on a personal note, yesterday is the Martyred Intellectuals Day, which was the kind of end of a whole 9 months of genocide. And I'd also like for us to have a silent prayer about the other genocide, which is happening in Gaza. That's something that somehow it's become politically incorrect to talk about it in some circles, but shouldn't be. A genocide is a genocide. So having said that, I welcome Mehdi Rajiv and look forward to listening with great interest to his deliberations. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Imran, for introducing Mehdi Rajiv also. As I have his bio, then let me read out from this. And it's my pleasure to introduce our esteemed speaker, Mehdi Rajiv, currently a doctoral candidate at University of Alabama. He's also an assistant professor at the University of Liberal Arts Bangladesh and the School of Business. Mr. Rajiv's research spent psychometric analysis, educational research methodology, and statistical applications in social and behavioral science. And with that, I will hand over the screen with Mr. Mehdi Rajiv. So, Rajiv bhai, the screen is yours.
I think I would like to share my screen first. Let's do it. So do you see my screen?
Yes. Okay.
So let me start my discussion first. So Honorable Vice Chancellor Professor Imran Rahman sir, respected Pro Vice Chancellor Professor Dr. Jude Henilo, Dr. Sajid Hussain, Director Center for Excellence in Teaching and Learning, my esteemed colleagues and distinguished guests. Good morning, and I'm really feeling privileged to be here in this webinar. Dr. Sajid already told about this webinar. It is all about navigating uncertainties, the future trajectory of educational assessment in the age of artificial intelligence. So this is a very interesting topic and highly discussed topic in the current literature. To be frank, it is more like a discussion session, and this webinar is primarily designed to be a platform so that we can share our thoughts on educational assessment, especially when we are performing assessment in hybrid or online classes. So this is one of the biggest issues that we might face in future. Being at this session feels like that I'm back at home after a long time. So ULAB was my kind of second home. I spent more time at ULAB than my actual home. I remember in 2009, I came to ULAB for a session, and Professor Imran Rahman sir actually brought me into teaching. I never thought I'll be a teacher, but he somehow managed to convince me to become a teacher. And ever since, I really love this profession. I really like to do it. And he somehow could see it through me. And so it is kind of like a discussion. So not kind of like a formal webinar. So let's discuss a lot of issues and see how we can reach some sort of a solution, whether we can face these challenges. So let me tell you a little bit about myself. I see some new faces here. So I was a faculty member at ULAB. I joined in 2009, and ever since I taught at the School of Business. I graduated from Dhaka University, and then I joined ULAB, and then after a while, I went to the Ball State University to have my master's degree in statistics. And during the COVID pandemic in 2021, I got my admission at UA, University of Alabama. So the reason I came here, let me tell you my PhD journey and search. So I was really interested in psychometric education research, and I tried to find the school that really gives me provide me with the advanced knowledge of psychometry and things like that, assessments, educational statistics assessments, things like that. So I found the number one person, Dr. Randall Schumacher, who is ranked the first one in psychometry in the US, actually a professor of my department. I thought like I'm going to work with him and do my research with him. However, my journey somehow took a turn, and I came to a different field, not really a psychometry. I'm working with psychometry, but it's kind of a little bit different than what I thought. So, so I came here in the US in 2021 August to pursue my doctoral studies in education research with a big dream. to climb my Mount McKinley. So I used to climb a lot of mountains, and one of the mountains are in the North America, which is Mount McKinley. And I had a dream to climb it. I couldn't do it, which is fine. I'll do it later. But what I did, I focused on my studies, and I kind of like try to understand this subject, and I was fascinated. So let me share my insights. And in this webinar, I have a very small presentation. I have a total of 10 slides. I'm not going to bore you with a lot of jargons. I'll try to move our discussion to the practical standpoints and see what we think of this situation and to see whether we can find some solutions. So let me give you a very basic introduction or very introductory ideas about how the educational assessments are done so that we understand how we can do it when in the presence of AI. So there are 3 approaches in total. So the way we assess students, the approach that we take to assess students. The first one that we use, everybody uses it. In our class, we give them the quizzes, tests, and we give them some numbers in their responses, and we get an overall summative assessment based on the total score. So that means we are actually providing them a score, and based on that score, we are telling them whether they're proficient or not. That is one way to do it. The second approach, that is kind of the modern way, and majority of for an example, GRE, ETS, they all use this theory to develop their test and to develop their assessments. So item response theory is the second one, which is like really popular, very easy to implement. We can easily apply this methodology to a test and assess all these. IRT is a model psychometric approach that models the relationship between an individual's ability and the probability of responding item correctly. So this is something very important. So total score is not really the reflection of the ability of the student. So this is something we have to understand. And you might say, why? Because a student gets 90%. He is very good. Oh, definitely he's very good, but that might not reflect his ability. For an example, let's say there are 10 questions. One is extremely difficult, and the rest 9 is somewhat difficult. And some student actually answered that difficult question. Do you think the ability of all the students who gets 90 is the same? No. So we have to deal with 2 things here. In the item response theory, we have to discuss with the item difficulty and item discrimination. So these are the some characteristics. For an example, item difficulty, we understand whether the item is difficult or not. Discrimination means whether this item is actually capable of discriminating students from different ability levels. For an example, if you ask a very easy question, everybody will answer it. You don't understand who's capable, who's not. If you ask a very difficult question, nobody can answer it. You still get no information. So that item or the question is not really discriminatory. So as a faculty member, we have to understand that we have to specify the assessment in such a manner so that the item can actually separate students from lower ability group and the higher ability group. So these are complex ideas, but I'm going to give you a very basic ideas. So for an example, a highly capable person can actually miss a simple question, and it happened many, many times. So item response theory can deal with many things. The first of all, it can estimate overall ability. Second, it can understand, it can give you some ideas about the questions that you were asking, whether the question is difficult or not, whether the question is discriminatory, whether the question is capable of discriminating students based on their abilities, whether a student can guess the answer, that is another question. So if you ask a question, that answer can be guessed without knowing the answer. Basically, it happened many, many times, especially in multiple choice questions. So you have to understand whether the guessing probability is what. And you have to understand whether there are any specific sleep parameter. That means a capable person is missing this answer without, basically he's sleeping the answer. Now, more advanced method came in. In recent days, we are discussing about the cognitive diagnosis modeling. So this is far more advanced than the item response theory. My PhD dissertation is basically on this. So cognitive diagnosis models go beyond item response theory, and it is aiming to diagnose the presence or absence of specific cognitive skills or attributes. Let me give you a very simple example. Let's say a bank is uh, asking for recruits for it. Like, let's say they are trying to they're trying to hire 100 students, or from some, or maybe from open market, they are trying to hire 100 management trainee officers. And this bank wants certain, let's say, certain skills. For an example, let's assume that they want to understand whether these candidates have accounting skill, management skill, technology use skill, and things like that. So specific skills are required for this position. The question is, how do you assess it? How do you understand whether these students have these skills or not? The cognitive diagnosis modeling actually can do that. It can actually assess the latent skill, that skill set which is not possible to observe. It can measure the latent skill, and it can also measure the overall ability and other item-related statistics that you want to develop a test or assessment. So this is the very basic ideas what is currently being applied in educational assessment. So in terms of cognitive assessment, we are seeing some drastic changes. For an example, GRE recently adopted take home. You can appear for a GRE test at home. This is something very interesting. So you just have to register and you have to meet some criterions, and you can actually go for a GRE test at home anytime, wherever you want. Duolingo took the same approach. They also developed a test that can be taken at home. This is something very interesting. These are high-stake tests. GRE results, if you get a very high score GRE, you will get a great admission to a great university. But you can do it at home. How they're doing it. So this is something that we have to understand, how they're doing it. So if they can do it, we can do it. There are ways to do it. So nothing is proven yet. This is kind of like a piloting sort of a thing. So we don't have the data to, endorse these tests. But let's talk about some ideas that are recently that already discussed in the recent literature. For an example, at the age of AI, we are actually very concerned that how do we assess the students, especially if we give them a take-home test. And if you just ask ChatGPT to prepare your assignment, it is capable of doing something like that. So how do you solve this issue? There are discussions about the assessment through problem-solving tasks. So this is something very important. So these tasks actually test whether this student has the skill or ability to perform this task in kind of a environment where we can, for an example, technology environment. So we can actually check what they're doing and how they are coming up with these solutions. Then we have this another idea, stealth assessment. So my dissertation topic is more connected with these two things, the assessment through problem-solving tasks and stealth assessment. I'm going to discuss about these two, but there are other ways to adopt these assessments using AI. So you implement AI to assess the students. That is one way. You can use the personalizations using AI for assessments. And we can also use creative assessments. For an example, video-based assessments that cannot be really transcripted into a AI algorithm. Or you have, if we assess the students through creative assessments, that can also be also provide you some sort of a good assessment strategies. My doctoral research, let me discuss a little bit about my doctoral research. So I am dealing with some very My topic is synergizing cognitive assessment models, leveraging process data, employing Bayesian methods, machine learning, and skill set analysis. So these are the very kind of like modern strategies that we're following in cognitive assessment. And this dissertation is basically comprised of 3 different studies, interconnected, but 3 different studies. So let me discuss what I'm currently working on, what is the future, and why we are working on this. So my first study in my dissertation is enhancing cognitive assessment through the integration of process data using Bayesian approach. So this study seeks to propose a novel cognitive diagnostic model, which we are calling 4-component model or 4-component CDM. This 4-component model extends a classical CDM framework by integrating additional source of information. So this is something important that we have to notice, this additional source of information. So this is something that is the future. So current CDM framework is not really giving us all the information, so we need additional sources. This 4-component model or 4-component CDM incorporates response accuracy, that means the real normal test, whether response is accurate or not, response time, how much time they're using, and response action similarity, response action efficiency. These are 2 measures based on the action sequence of the students for improved ability or proficiency of estimation. So let me explain what I'm doing in this study. So this is my theoretical framework, so don't be alarmed, it's not that kind of complex. I'm going to explain. So this part, for an example, ability, item parameters, attributes, item responses. So this part is basically the framework for cognitive diagnostics modeling. So we are extending this framework to these 4 we are incorporating information from 3 other sources. Why? That is the question. So why we have to go through such a complex nature of framework, and why do we have to do it? Now, let me explain why do we have to do it and why we need this sort of information. So let me explain this. In general statistics, when you do a modeling, let's say a regression model, or how do we run statistical methods? What is the basic concept about it? So in statistics, we assume that that an individual person cannot be, assessed. Like you cannot forecast based on an individual person. Instead, we can actually forecast or assess a population. So the basic primary methodology is we try to forecast about the population based on some sample, and we generalize the results based on the sample on the population. So that is the basic idea. Things have changed. This is not anymore the idea. For an example, let me explain. You are running a regression model. It's a very simple analysis. Everybody understand. I believe everybody understand this analysis. So regression model, you have one dependent variable. You are trying to explain this dependent variable by some independent variable. Let's say 5 independent variables. We estimate these, and we estimate these parameters. So 5 independent variables means we are trying to estimate 5 beta coefficients. These are the parameters for the model, and based on these beta coefficients, we are, discussing about populations. So we are commenting about populations in statistical analysis. Things have changed. We are not really talking about population anymore. We are now turning ourselves into explaining individuals, not the population. Let me give you an example about this model. So this model is complex, it's very complex. My dissertation, the data that I used is basically a US-based assessment data. I have 935 respondents in the data. The number of parameters that I estimated for this model is 9,731. Now, you might ask me a question, why so many parameters? In a regression model, we are estimating 5 parameters, maybe based on 100,000 sample size. And I have 1,000 sample size, and now I'm estimating 9,700 and something parameters. It takes 8 days for a supercomputer to estimate the model. The question is, what is happening? Why are you doing such a complex model? It is very important to do it. Because when we are talking about educational assessment, we are talking about individual feedback. We have to understand what a single individual student is lacking. We have to understand where his skills are not really proficient, where he is lacking, what are the conditions that he is going through. And trust me, all these things can be estimated through mathematical models. So, my second study, we are actually trying to estimate the skill sets. So this is something very interesting that, so we have to understand the profession. This is like kind of a policy level analysis that, for an example, let's say if we are trying to understand what are the skill gaps, special, let's say we are trying to understand what are the competencies that are required for the job sector. And let's say we are trying to understand in which cases our students really lacks the proficiency. Now we assume a lot of things, but for individual students, we cannot say that you lack this, you lack that kind of proficiency. With current methodologies, we can do it. Let's say 1,000 students graduate from ULAB. We can actually tell the students that you have a skill gap in this segment. You have a skill gap in this segment based on our assessments. These are very powerful methods, and these are coming ahead. These are already in the market. Some organizations are already implementing these methodologies. And just imagine the power of these methodologies. Like you can actually identify the student with ID 303 doesn't have proper technological efficiency. Great, nice. Next, this is something far more interesting. So we are trying, this is my supervisor's idea. Dr. Wen Chaoma is my supervisor. He's an award-winning faculty in the measurement. If there were a gold medal or field medal in the field of diagnosis modeling, I think he's going to get it. So he's trying to explore he's actually trying to initiate a new field of analysis, which is called process behavior. So he's trying to introduce this process behavioral analysis into the field of corporate diagnosis modeling. And he told me that find a measure that actually tell everybody that, yeah, it exists. So I'm trying to kind of like understand whether the process behavior really affects the item response and how to explain this process behavior. To assess this process behavior, I had to employ the machine learning methods. So I never worked in machine learning methods, but I had to learn it. I had to learn it, and now I know a bit about this machine learning thing. And we're also using generalized linear models. So this is kind of very interesting. We understand that not every student is same. So every student has a difference in their behavior, and these behaviors can actually tell us where they lack in understanding and responding to an item. So that is all about my dissertation study. So can this model be applied in the context of Bangladesh? Maybe not. Maybe yes. I don't know if infrastructure is there. We have proper, computing power. Yeah, this can be done. But the question is whether we are willing to do it. So that is the most important question. So if we are interested to do it, we can actually bring a big change. And these are the future of assessments. This is like, I'm not telling that these are the future of this. My dissertation is the future of assessment. No, I'm telling you the way they are thinking, that is going to be the future of assessment. That means we are not going to think about which class is doing better, how many students are getting a GPA 5 or not. We're going to look into their skill set, what skills they have, what kind of ability they have, not what kind of grade they have. So that is kind of like a super efficient, nuanced approach in assessing students. So this is something that we have to understand and have to consider in implementing. So let's discuss about how can we assess students in hybrid or online classes. There are many ways. So I'm facing situations in the US. I've been doing a lot of classes. After my I transferred a few courses from my master's program, but still I had to do a lot of courses. Total credit hours that I completed in coursework is around 70. That is more than 2 master's degree. So I was extremely busy, but still, I learned a lot doing these courses because these courses gave me the idea that how these faculty members came up with these amazing ideas to assess students. The first thing that I would suggest, AI is AI. It is going to be here. It is here. It is going to be here forever. You cannot avoid this. Accommodate this in your life. Let the students take advantage of AI in their life. So the ideology is you need AI in future. The future job sector will actually depend on whether if the students know how to use AI or not. Because at some point of time, there are a lot of work, the preliminary works are to be done by the AI, and students will be taking over from the AI work from there. So it's not going to be, you cannot avoid AI in any level. And to be frank, after coming to the US, I'm really strictly against pen and paper exams because it's not going to help them a lot anymore in the future. Because yeah, it is going to, this pen and paper actually gives you a very closed and confinement. You can assess they're not cheating and stuff like that. The plagiarism issues are there. But we can be creative with our tests to make sure that they learn. So the first thing that I learned in the UA, and UA is like one of the biggest football star. Like the University of Alabama is probably always the champion of football in the US. So football is a very popular game. It's not the soccer. Soccer is the real football. Here they play with the hands. It's not a football. It's kind of like it's not a rugby, but it's American football. So the University of Alabama is the top football team in the nation, and these people are mad about it. And still, and these students, they have to learn. They're not like really partying and stuff like that. They have to learn. How do you do that? So the professors came up with a very interesting idea. The first thing that they did is like teach them through assessment. So accommodate, first thing, you create assignments or assessments in such a manner so that they learn through assessments. Maybe not in the class, they're not learning in the class, but make sure that they learn at the end of the assessment. So assessment can be used as a tool for teaching. So this is something very interesting that I saw it here. And every single time I did it, these are super flexible tests, amazing tests, but very, very useful for teaching students. Accommodate AI tools within the assessment structure. I have already told this. There are graphics-based assessments that you can, for an example, there are many, discussions about this. Let's say, let them make a poster summarizing information. Trust me, this is a very important assignment because they have to summarize the information and they have to do a lot of research to do that. They learn. Video-based assignment. Give them a video to analyze, or ask them to create a video. So something like that. I'm just giving up, these are the assessments that are really implemented in the US. I've seen it in my class. I've seen it in different places. So these are very interesting ideas, but these may not be the solutions. For an example, let's say, if you were trying to cheat, for an example, if you want to exclude AI from from the life of your students, give them a assignment with local context. It'll be very difficult for the AI to copy this context from somewhere else. So these are some basic ideas that I explored. while I studied here. And this is kind of the end of my presentation. And let's open the floor for everyone so that we can discuss about this challenge that we are facing ahead. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Rajiv. We designed the whole session to make it more comfortable for the faculties to discuss their ideas and their thought and their issues they want to know, and not necessary to think about someone is specialized on it. Let's find the solution by discussing ourselves. So the floor is open. Anyone can ask. So you can raise your hand and ask.
Can you close the presentation, please?
Yeah, sure. Just give me 1 second. Yes.
Okay, so let me start with the one question that rise in your discussion. So you mentioned about learning through assessment. Can you give some example what you mean by learning through assessment?
This is very important. For an example, what is learning through assessment? So let me explain this to you. So I attended a statistics course at EY. So, and none of the students were really interested to learn these things. And it's almost sure, I'm almost sure that 50% of this class, then they could not concentrate properly. So the faculty came up with an amazing solution. So he created a test online. It's very simple. You can use a lot of platforms to do that. Khan Academy is there. Blackboard, you can do it. I think Moodle can accommodate some sort of similar assessment. So what he did, he gave 3 chances. It's a 35-question assessment. It's a long assessment. It takes nearly 3 hours to just read through all these questions. There is no time limit. You can take the test however long you want. It's completely fine. And you have 3 chances. So you can appear for this test 3 times. First time, majority of the students make mistakes. Like out of 35, they got 18, 19, first attempt. But now they get 19 and they understand their score is really poor. Now they think like, I have another chance, so let's do it. Now just imagine. Now the question is changed now. Second time you try, this question is rearranged. Now this question is changed. You cannot really answer the question the way you answered in the first test. So what happens now? Now students have to understand what they are doing to make sure they increase their score. And the second test, they get like 30 out of 35. Now it's still there, 5 points. So they become more ambitious. They gain 5. So this assessment is not designed to test how much they learn prior to take the test. This assessment is designed to push the students to learn. Got my point?
Yeah.
So every single time they try the assessment, they are prepared more. So multiple times they prepare for this test, and multiple times they cover the syllabus, they revise the syllabus, and they attempt for the test. So this is a very interesting idea that is implemented here, and I really like this idea.
And this is a kind of gamification, so giving some reward
right.
to
Something
achieve
like
something.
that,
yeah.
Yes.
Very
yes.
interesting.
Yes,
Yeah.
you were here.
Yeah.
You're muted.
can't.
You're muted, Arzu. You're muted.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm just so excited to see Medibhai, and I was saying that I'm too much looking forward to today's session since last night already. So, what a useful session. Thank you so very much. I don't have any question. I just want to show you that one of the examples that you shared, picture-based assessment, I tried that this time, and it was wonderful. And you're absolutely right. The AI couldn't help them with this. So I just want to share my screen for a few seconds. This was for my business communication class, and I wanted them to come up with the diagram for the process, business communication process. So I gave them a context and I showed them the picture, and based on the picture, they had to write the entire communication process that's been going on, identifying the different elements here. And they couldn't use, so this is just one of the examples. I also use videos for business introduction to business. So they had to watch advertisements and then write about it. For example, I showed them an advertisement that reflected product differentiation, and then they had to write what they had seen in the advertisement. So AI actually couldn't help them in that. So thank you for validating that it is actually being used at your place too. Thank you.
Yeah, it's a wonderful approach. This is really efficient way to cheat the AI. And one more thing that I like you to try is like tell them to use the AI as well to explain these situations, so that they can encode these communications within the AI framework, so that they can actually take advantages of both their own thinking and the current information that is available on the web. That is really the AI, the ChatGPT. That is what they're doing. So that gives them more ideas, more thinking patterns.
Right.
Thank you. So it was wonderful to see you. I really miss you. We have done so many things, sir.
Yeah, Professor.
Thank you, Mehdi. This was a really, really useful, what we call it, seminar, and so related to the kinds of challenges, thoughts we are having about the future of assessment in Bangladesh. সত্যি এটা আমার কাছে খুবই ভালো লেগেছে, and you explained it extremely well. So I wanted to ask you, you said that, so I have many questions, so this could go on, so I'll try to restrict my excitement here. You said pen and paper exams are not so much useful, which is again a very challenge to our mindsets, right? আমরা তো এখান থেকে নড়তেই পারছি না. Then I remember that, for example, for years, the highest degree in medicine, MRCP, which is the jara medicine year kore,
Right.
whole thing is multiple choice. But
Yes,
these
sir.
multiple choice questions are tough multiple choice questions.
Oh, definitely.
Right?
Yes.
It's not. It's and there's negative marking, like in
Right,
GRE, GMAT. So I wanted to ask you that you said you took 70 credits of coursework. Again, let me take this opportunity. I know many of you heard from me that I think the US PhD is one of the best in the world, right? But and this is the reason, because in the US PhD, apart from focusing on your dissertation, you get to dive in depth in the broad area of your central knowledge. I mean, 70 coursework equivalent to 2 masters is no joke.
Yes,
for most of us who finished the PhD, I haven't. The PhD topic, you're so fed up with it, you will never return to that after 1-2 years. But what else, if you go to UK, what else have you picked up in terms of your research interest, broadness? Compared to America, not much. So that's something. So tell me, out of the 70 credits, what was the percentage of assessment that you faced which used pen and paper assessment, roughly?
Not even a single one.
Wow.
No,
Wow.
not even a single one.
There you are.
Not even a single one. Yeah, this is something
my
really
goodness.
amazing question that you asked.
Amazing. So we really need to rethink this. Amra, the other thing I wanted to ask you is that we are going online again because of the blockade in Hartal.
Yes.
Something we did over the thing. And again, because we do pen and paper, so online examinations are very, very risky, because you're going to plagiarism.
Right, sir.
And somehow our faculty are a bit shy of penalizing plagiarizers. I'm not. So that's also very interesting because, tell us maybe how these non-paper and pen exams, even take-home exams, how do they handle the plagiarism or cheating issue?
Well, they have incorporated targeting within the system. So, and recently, UA already have a policy about that you can't really copy and paste things from ChatGPT directly into your assignment. You can take the help. There is a clause about it. So they have the system embedded within the submission procedure. So you submit an assignment, it is going to be checked automatically using, let's say, Turnitin, and it gives you an indicator about the similarity index, and the faculty members can actually penalize students based on that. I have seen students, especially from Bangladeshi students, they are not really careful about it. I have seen at least two, they faced reactions. So yeah, it's a really big issue here. But in general, Americans, they do not really plagiarize. In general, they do not really copy. This is a mindset that they have. They are not.
Do you do some teaching as a graduate teaching assistant?
No, this is something very interesting. No, I am not, because I was really, let me explain this, something very interesting situation that I faced. So at my first year, I was on a fellowship, so I was not really required to do any research, but I still worked with a faculty member, and it was really productive relationship. And after first year, I switched to my supervisor. So my current supervisor took me as an advisor. And the fun thing is, he gave me a very interesting assignment. He got a National Science Foundation fund. It's a very prestigious fund he got. And he was looking for somebody to take the lead for that research. I was the lead for this research. He just gave it to me. And I never thought that I could come up with a solution to that, to solve that issue. I never thought about it because it requires such intensive methodological reviews and stuff. I never did it before. I never thought that in education, I'll face statistical challenges that is far more difficult than statistics itself. And yes, it happened. And I had to work in a supercomputer because our computers were not capable enough to do the calculation. And I have somehow, this time I realized that I can actually freeze a computer by calculation. This is the first time in my life that I froze two servers twice, just putting calculations. This is something really, eye-opening for me, that there is no limit to learn. It's never ending. There's so many things to learn.
Thank you.
Yeah, Jilani.
All right. Thank you, sir, for your excellent presentation. And it was a brilliant one.
Sorry
And
to interrupt, Jilani. It's nice if you switch your video on, because Mehdi hasn't seen you. So nice to see your face.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much. So once again, thank you so much for your brilliant presentation. And I learned a lot of things. And I have one question. And at first comment, geographically and socioeconomically, we are situated in a place, and to some extent, it is a kind of data mine for many AI model or assessment model, which is coming or will be coming in near future. And probably in future, we are going to integrate this model in our teaching and learning practice. And when we are making decision like this, and what sort of things we need to keep in our mind to make the decision, so that it becomes, the decision is more purpose oriented, all right, and rewarding for us as teachers and for our learners as well. So what's your comment in that regard, sir?
So this is a very important question, and we have to, at the policy level, Imran sir is here, who really vocal about all this for For a long time, I've seen him very closely discussing all these issues. Prominently, ULAB is actually taking a leadership position in exploring all these many times. So this is one of the biggest questions that we have to ask. Recently, I was discussing with Professor Sadan Dalip, who is another educational specialist based on this Bangladeshi context, and he was discussing that what we are establishing, how do we assess. So the first thing, when you are actually developing an educational setup, the first thing you have to understand how we are assessing them, what are we assessing them, what do we want to assess, what do we want, to be frank. আমরা আসলে কি প্রোডাক্ট চাই, আমরা ক্লাস 5 পর্যন্ত আসলে কি ধরনের রেজাল্ট চাই, এই যে আমাদের কারিকুলামটা, সেটা I'm speaking in Bangla. So what kind of curriculum that we want, let's say up to class 5. So what happens, we have to understand our objective, and then we have to set up in a curriculum, and the more important thing is the assessment structure, so that we can assess those curriculum skills or knowledge for the students. It is a difficult one because the way we are used to it, the educational setup in Bangladesh is not really dynamic. I'm sorry to say that it's my own country. It's our fault because we did not really went ahead and take the leadership to change it. We have to. Today or tomorrow, we have to, because that really, that educational system actually is the backbone of our country. If we don't do it, we can't really, change the nation. So first thing, this is the question that you asked: what is the rewards that we have? The first thing, you're going to have a revised nation, the nation with less corruption, smart people, smart thinker, because you have changed your assessment structure so that the students will actually prepare for those assessments. So once they are starting preparing for that kind of assessment, they have to be smart. That is the first thing. They have to know. Second, what is the reward for the faculty members? The faculty members, the best reward is our students will do much better. That is the best thing. And how do we do it? Yeah, it is a long journey. We can't really start. We cannot do it like within 1 year or 2 years. It takes time. Gradually, you have to do it. But it requires national level policy reforms, and we can do it within ourselves. Let's say ULAB take the leadership. All we have to do is we have to have a plan. What do we want to assess? What do we want to develop among our students? So what are the objectives that we have? We have to struggle a little, but at the end of the day, our students will be probably the best among all other students in this country, or maybe we will compete with top universities in the world. The reason I'm telling you this, if you're talking about Harvard, Ivy League institutes, or maybe R1 research institutes, they all do that. They make sure that the students learn a specific thing from their courses. So with certain level of competencies, they let the students go to the market. And that is pretty important. So unless we reform our whole structure of assessment, our nation is going to suffer. For an example, let me give you a very simple example. Public service in Bangladesh is really extremely, I'm not going to comment on that. Maybe I'm not going to, it's not really, for an example, I'm not talking about like the whole thing. Maybe we face a lot of issues with the public service. Now, we never judge skills when they're entering this, the service program, the jobs level. So, for example, let's say a foreign affairs officer, they need certain level of efficiencies or proficiencies when they do the job, and there is no mechanism to judge that. We're judging everybody on the same scale. No, it cannot be done. It's not appropriate. It should be reformed. So that's it. So if we can change it, if we can bring the change, yeah, things will be different, a lot different. Thank you, Jirani Bhai. It is really nice to meet you.
Thank you so much.
Anybody else have a questions or discussion?
I'm Dr. Tariq. Can I ask a question to Mehdi bhai?
Yeah,
Oh,
please.
definitely, Tariq bhai.
How are you? Fine. I haven't
I'm
seen
doing
you
all right.
long.
How are you?
I'm fine. Just to ask you, if you are aware that government have totally restructured the assessment system in the school level, and
Yes.
they have changed the curriculum assessment system. So there are a lot of debate around the system, and my son is like promoting to class 9. So I am also very worried. They have downgraded the syllabus from the previous years and simplified the version, removed the division like science, arts, and commerce. So what is your take on that? Will Bangladesh handle that, or what type of students will like to get after 4 years in the university? So any comments?
This is actually too early to comment on that because the curriculum that was adapted was not that bad. It was, uh, implemented in many other countries. And our perception about academia is completely different. We think that hard work is extremely important to be a very good student. The things have changed. We need to understand that smart work is important to be a very bright student. So I am not really sure about what changes they brought in, but what I heard. But the problem with that system is there is one important thing that we have to discuss. First of all, uh, the facilitator or the instructors in our schools are not really the greatest instructor in the world, to be frank. So they need to be properly trained to implement such a kind of lifestyle-based, education. So one of the most important thing, let me explain this. Professor Imran, actually, when I was very young faculty, very young, like he was molding me, their hands, like I have no idea. He told me one thing, like I still remember that. Remember, you were always a VIP in your classroom. So when you get into a class, every student will consider you as a model. They will follow you somehow, this way, that way. I remember that. So one of the most important thing is when you are trying to teach lifestyle-based learning, your teachers has to be really good, cool, like really smart and capable of having a great lifestyle. They have to be capable of influence the students to follow them, you know. So I'm not really sure whether Bangladesh government has changed that part. So instructors are the most important part of this kind of curriculum. So the problem occurs when you have this gap, uh, and reducing syllabus is whether it's a smart move or not. That is kind of important. And Imran sir probably has a comment on this, sir.
Yeah, it's interesting. I was just discussing this issue with Jilani just yesterday. And what we will do, I think, that we will have a session on this, on the new curriculum. And I also want to bring in one of the foremost experts, Professor Manzoor Ahmed, into this argument. So yeah, absolutely, we need to look at. And you rightly said that the critical thing is the curriculum itself might be beautiful, right? But the point is the curriculum is only as good as the teachers teaching it. Now, even the existing curriculum, us teachers are not handling that well. So the worry is for people like Tariq is that, my first question is how inclusive was this policy in terms of involving the various stakeholders, parents, experts, even alumni, and how much was stopped down? Somebody thought, oh, we like the Finnish model, let's have it here, but we are not Finland. So I think we're going to have a wonderful thing. I just wanted to thank you again. I need to leave. Can I request everybody to switch on your video so I can take a snap? This is such a wonderful occasion that I don't want to miss. এক মিনিট আমি কল করছি। All right.
Sir, this is Barbak. I'm extremely sorry that I do not have a camera attached to my camera at the university, at my computer at the university. I'm at the university, sir, and I do not have a camera attached to this computer, so I'm very sorry, sir. I
I
cannot.
see. Okay. All right. Others, Muntasir, Mirza, Faisal Imran, Nusrat Tajkiya, Habib Ali, Faisal Chaudhary. Please all turn your video on. Thank you. Muntasir, Faisal.
Sorry, I'm just taking the bus to come to the campus. I just want to say hi to Mehdi Bhai. I listen to
Okay,
your
that's
session.
fine.
It was
Yeah, it's
wonderful.
fine. Just say wherever you are, just turn it on.
Yeah.
Right?
Can you see me? I'm from home.
Yes, we can see you.
Thank
All
you,
right.
sir.
So big smile, everybody. I think the rest are not going to turn it on. So big smile. I'm just going to. All right. Done. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you, Professor Imran.
Thank you, sir.
I need
Thank
to
you,
leave,
sir.
but carry on. The rest of you can carry on. Thank you.
Yeah, let's carry on and continue our discussion if we have anything you want to know.
Sorry if I may go.
Yeah, Tazia, কি খবর? How are you?
এই তো I'm doing good. ভাই কেমন আছেন?
Oh, I'm doing all right. How are you
How's
doing?
the cold?
Oh, it's not that cold. It's kind of
Oh.
Alabama is like a kind of a nice place, cozy, not like Midwest where you know Midwest is like crazy minus 35 degrees Celsius. Yeah, but here it's kind of nice and cozy.
When are you coming back?
I am planning to come back this summer. Hopefully, let's see how it goes. So yeah, it's
Okay.
not come back. I have to
For a
finish my
visit, for a short visit at
for a
least?
visit,
That would be
maybe for
great.
3 months, and I'm probably planning to. Let's see whether I can be there for a while.
Fingers crossed.
It's been a long time. It's been almost 2.5 years, and I didn't visit my the home. This is like crazy. It's really a long time that I'm staying here. It's too
Yeah,
much.
it's time that you pay a short visit at least.
Yeah. So I'm planning for a long visit, and probably for 3. I'm trying to get a 3 months thing. So let's see.
Maybe
Also
just a
good.
question.
Yeah, please.
আমি মাস্টার্স যখন শেষ করছিলাম তখন জাস্ট শেষের পার্টে কিছুটা মেশিন লার্নিং করেছিলাম এন্ড ইট সিমড ভেরি ডন্টিং বিকজ ওই একটা কোর্সে করতে হয়েছিল বাট এখন যদি পিএইচডির জন্য যাই ডেফিনেটলি দ্যাট সিমস দ্য অনলি পাথ এটা না পারলে মোটামুটি মোস্ট ফান্ডিং ইজ ইন দ্যাট সো কতদিন লাগবে টু মাস্টার দিস টু এট লিস্ট
No, it's not a big deal. It's not a big deal. First of all, it's not the machine learning that is difficult. It is the theory behind that machine learning. So the first thing is like you have to understand where you are using these machine learning methods. These are very powerful methods. You can use these machine learning methods to make a lot of decisions and automatically. So I use the supervised learning methods. For an example, I'm trying to understand how I'm supervising the learning method. I'm actually specifying the model to make the learning happens or occurs. Machine needs to learn from the data. There are much more advanced methodologies, but the best part is don't be scared of any of this. So one thing I learned in my PhD, during my PhD, the one thing that I learned, everything is possible. I used to say that a lot of time, but last 1 year, it was kind of crazy because last 1 year I didn't know whether I'm going to finish it. Whether I'm going to get my result. So what you make one mistake, I have to wait for 8 days to get my model, the result from my model, and you see there is a mistake in a 2,000 line code. So you end up with like to start again. So I never thought I could write that thing. If I can do it, you'll do much better. Trust me.
Okay, thank you. We can continue our conversation after the meeting also, the seminar, but we have to formally end the session.
All right,
So,
all
Dr.
right,
Jude, do you have any question or you can just give the closing remark?
Well, I have a question.
Okay, so
Oh.
followed by
Yeah,
closing remark.
Yeah, because earlier Mehdi, you mentioned that in one of the trends in assessment is personalization of assessment using AI. But
Right.
the way assessment is done now is more of standardization, wherein you compare students and rank them accordingly. So uh, are we shifting paradigm now wherein the student has to compete with his own or her own self?
No, it's totally fine. It's a great question. This is something really important to discuss. Yes, standardization is very important, and we have to consider standard results comparable across all the students. So there is a sub-segmentation of cognitive assessment, which is called equating. So actually, you can do it. So for an example, let's say one student is taking a personal test, and some other students are taking another personal test. And there are some questions that are relevant. Same questions, similar questions, just personalized, different names, something, but same questions. Now, these questions are used as equating factors. So once you have these equating factors, you can actually compare students 1 with the student 2's results, and you can standardize their results in one scale. So it's there, the methodology is already there, and these are pretty used in GRE. For an example, in GRE, you may face adaptive tests, like machines actually select tests for you, the problems for you. So how do you compare student 1 with student 2? They are facing completely different questions. So, and GRE gives a standard result. So this is great. So it is there. So it's not a big deal. It's not a challenge. We can actually face, we do not have to change the standardization in any way. We do not have to compromise that part. The methodology is there to compare these personalizations. So it's not a big deal, to be frank.
Okay, thank you. So I think I'll proceed with the closing.
Okay, before proceeding, I will request all the faculty members to give a feedback about this event. We'll share the link in the chat box and after the seminar also. So Professor Jude is providing the closing remarks. Thank you.
Already sent, sir.
Yeah. Okay. So, well, thank you, Mehdi, for the very wonderful webinar, and also, of course, CETL for organizing this. Well, what I appreciate about Mehdi's presentation is that he went through the background, talking about classical ways wherein we do assessment. He also talked about the item response assessment, which we usually do. Okay, so that's a very good takeoff point. And then moving towards the later assessment, cognitive diagnostic models, and actually talking about other things like problem solving, task, before talking about his research that he's doing, which I'm very glad you're doing, because then we can learn from you, the 4-component cognitive diagnostic model. Well, we know that big changes are happening in the education sector because COVID accelerated all these changes, and all these technologies are happening. In fact, when Mehdi was my partner in crime when we do the rankings for ULAB before. I'm still doing it, Mehdi, for your information.
Wow, awesome.
Yeah, but now there's a big change, because now when we do the rankings, we're being asked how many online programs you have, how many students do you have that are studying online. So these are already being considered by the ranking bodies. And also, because we have online and hybrid programs, and then we have AI, and then we also have now companies offering services showing their expertise in learning assessments. Then we know that it has really changed. The way we assess students need to change. And yeah, thanks. The pen and paper really doesn't really work anymore, as Mehdi said. So we really have to change. And therefore, at ULAB, we have actually a learning assessment manual. Okay. And I know that the portion of it is a lot about pen and paper. But then we have to review this so that we can move with the changes that are happening. Also, the CETL, when they're making their curriculum, they're for the new faculty, they're now considering new ways of teaching faculty how to do new assessments. So that is one of the things Dr. Sajjad is asked to do, to integrate that into the curriculum of CETL whenever there's new faculty. And then ULAB also has a hybrid learning committee, which is headed by Arifa, okay, which is a familiar name to you, Mehdi.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah, so, and the hybrid learning committee is there to make us keep up with the latest in the technology of online learning. So how to do it properly in all its aspects, technology-wise, priming students, how to do proper assessment, pedagogy, infrastructure, the software. So it's really a big turn in terms of our shift in our paradigm. And this is what we want to do. And that's why thank you for being part of it. And for all the faculty who attended today, yeah, thank you very much, because now I can see which faculty are early adopters of these new changes. So we will be relying on you more and more. Okay, so thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. J.
Thank you, Dr. Jude, and thank you, Mehdi Rajiv, so giving the wonderful session and giving the highlights of the opportunity of technologies. So I think someday we'll have the supercomputer to assist our student by the technology also. So for the best, and okay. That's the end of the session, but I will continue with the informal discussion as long Rajiv is there, and we have some informal adda could be continue. Thank you, Professor Jude.
Right.